Hello Internet, I must tell you I'm excited once again. I'm here in Durban. I have our good friend Duval running the camera. I must tell you if something goes wrong with the video here, it's his fault, not mine. And I have somebody very special with me. I've got André Rabie from 32 Battalion. He ended his career as a sergeant major, but he became famous as a sergeant for 32 Battalion. And I want to thank you, I want to say thank you for coming to us. We really appreciate you. We are grateful for you. Thank you, sir. You're always welcome here. The rest of you guys out there as well, guys, come and contact us. Don't get scared just because we're wearing our own logos, you know. I think in the future we're going to start selling these t-shirts just to cover some costs. And we'll talk about that at a later stage. Over to you. André, can you tell me, where did this start? How did you end up in the army?
Thank you, Chris, for inviting me to talk on the legacy of 32 Battalion and the legacy of myself. I want to start by saying I joined the military after school. I went straight. I was permanent force from day one. I went to infantry school in 1978. I did my year training in infantry school, and from infantry school I went to 6th South African Battalion in Grahamstown, and we started working with the troops there. And my first operational stint, we went to Okatopi in 1980. We went to Okatopi, and that's where our patrols, you know, in 6th Battalion was 7 days in the bush, and then we came back to the base. And in my stint at Okatopi, that's where I heard about 32 Battalion and that they had a special unit. And I had in my mind, at the back of my head, that I always wanted to go to 32 Battalion. That was one of my visions in the military, is to end up in 32 Battalion. And I applied to go to 32 Battalion, and within 6 months, 1981, I went to 32, but I was transferred to 32 Battalion. Now, how it works when you when you arrive at 32 Battalion, all the newbies, the new guys that arrive there, they do a kira, a selection. Now, because I arrived at 32 Battalion in April, and the selection was done in January. Now, how it works in 32 Battalion, you do the selection, and if you pass the selection, then you get put into the companies. And when I arrived there, I was a single guy, so I was put into Delta Company the first time. And the people that I look up to is Peter Williams, Donnie Frey, Ben Roos. They were in Delta Company as well. And our company commander was Julius Kratz, a captain. And how it works is, with your first, even if you pass the selection, your first operation you do, we go to the bush, and we go into the bush for 6 weeks at a time, and then we come out after 6 weeks. And your first trip you do to the bush, you're entitled to get a beret, the camo beret, but no badges on, nothing. Your second operation you do, your second stint of another 6 weeks, then you're allowed to put your infantry bulky on the beret. And the third one that you do, then you're entitled to get your buffelkop on your beret. Then you're a fully qualified buffalo soldier. And after I did the three stints, then new people came into the unit, and then Jim Ross from Echo Company, he was the acting commanding officer of Buffalo Base. And he told Julius Kratz that I now have to go and do the selection to see if I will fit in 32 Battalion. And Julius just said to him, he's already done his operations, he's already wearing a beret, so why must he go and do selection? He's already qualified in the unit, so he's not going. So leave it at that. Now, to come back to my first operation that I did with 32 Battalion, it was said to me that the troops will evaluate you in the bush. They are going to look what you do. Now, what happened with the first contact we had, let me just go back again to what was said. When we learned all the doctrines in infantry school, the doctrines, because that's a piece of paper. And it was said to us, because everything is written on a piece of paper, it's actually flexible. You can use it as you want. And 3-2 Battalion did everything different than what we did in infantry school that we were taught. Everything that we did in 6I on the bush, the patrols we did, we get to 3-2 Battalion, and everything is different. There we just used the box formation, a section in front and 2 sections on the side. And when you are taught through the doctrines in infantry school that it's dash, down, crawl, observe, sights, fire. Now, in 3-2 Battalion, we don't do that. As soon as you draw enemy fire, the first thing you do is you attack straight. There's no going down to the dash and the down and the crawl and setting your sights, and that doesn't work. You win a firefight with fire. So as soon as we draw fire, we just shout avanza, and then we attack straight away. And what happened is, when they said to me that people are going to test you, we had this contact, and I started running in avanza and I was shooting, and I looked back and all the troops were sitting on the ground, all of them. All 27 of them were sitting on the ground, just looking at me. And then I shouted again, avanza, which is mean attack. And I'm actually, my hairs are standing up now. And wasn't even 5 steps when I looked to my left and to my right. All 28 troops were right next to me. And that's how we went in, and then we did the fighting and that. Now, that is where I presume that the troops then got the respect of me. Because all of them go through that. Every white leader group that gets to the unit goes through this phase with the troops. So if you're doing it wrong, then they will kick you out. Because if they don't accept you, you're not accepted. And because we are white and our Angolan troops are black, we always have to put Black is Beautiful on, so that we don't stand out in the field. Because if you look from the enemy's perspective, the first guy they're going to shoot is the white guy. And that's why we wear Black is Beautiful. So, and now in 3-2 Battalion, there was the platoon commanders and the platoon sergeants, myself, Peter Williams, Danny Frey, Ben Roos, Frans Marais, everybody slept in one big house that we had. We call it the reed houses, because we built them themselves. And so it was a community of us. You sleep together in the bungalow. You go to the mess, you eat together. You go to the bush, you're always together. It was only the company commanders that slept at the HQ in their own quarters. And we never actually addressed the ranks of the people. We just called everybody by names, except the captain. When you speak to him in the HQ and that, then you address him as captain, and the commanding officer from Buffalo Base was Major Papa Victor. And you address him as a major, and RSM is, so those days it was not RSM, you address him as a sergeant major. And he was P.W. van Heerden. But in the bush, when we talk to each other on the radios, we call each other by names. We don't call, there's not like you taught in the doctrines that there's you Bravo 1 and Bravo 2 and Bravo 3 and things like that. If I want to call Peter, I call Peter, this is André. So we call by names. And we spoke in our mother tongue as well in the bush when we speak to one another, because we were all Afrikaans. So on the radio when we spoke to one another was all Afrikaans. But when we speak when we speak with the troops, that's all in Portuguese. And all you have to do is you just say avanza, then they know they've got to attack. But those troops were so excellently trained that we were actually learning from them as well. Their weaponry, their camouflage in the bush. When we do a temporary base at night, they would go around and remove all the little leaves and sticks. If they go and wake up the next guy in the trench next to him, he will not hit a little tree or a brush or anything. So when he walks, you don't even hear him walking. He'll wake up the next guy, and that guy will get up out of his trench and he's now the guard. So the guards will move around. You can walk around the whole temporary base and not make a sound. Because in one contact that happened, the one guy came to Ben Roos, and he said to Ben, there's people very close by. So Ben said to him, no, I think it's animals. He says, no. An animal does not move the leaves and stuff when he wants to lie down. Only humans do that. So there must be people very close by. And he heard an empty water container hit against a tree. So they said, okay, well, leave it. Let's go and have a look in the morning what it is. And so we were sleeping. And going the guard on, and those guys were also not sleeping, and they were there. It was the enemy. And the one guy got up to walk out of the temporary base to go have his morning number 2. And as he sat down to have a look, and he was looking them, he saw them lying sleeping. So he came back and he said to Ben, the enemy is right here. And then they got a couple guys and they attacked these guys. And 2 of them were Russians. And when they were shot, the one Russian actually shouted, no fashfogo, which means please don't shoot. And well, nevertheless, it's enemy. It was war. And we were trained what we were trained to do. We did that. And coming back to Buffalo, what we do is we take all the troops kit, the machilas we take, and we pack 7 days rations into their kit. The water that we can fill up the water later. They make sure all their magazines are full, their weapons, everything, and that was packed in the house where we were. So when we have to go back to the bush, their kit is always ready. So all we have to do is just pick up the troop. He comes to the house, he picks up his machila, picks up his weapon, gets on the truck, and is fully operational to go to the bush. He won't have to. So we do a final inspection before their 4 weeks. Now when we come back from the bush, we do 2 weeks kitchen fatigues, which you have to help in the kitchen and clean, and the other that 2 weeks that they're helping there, we sort of just check what they're doing. And that's probably where the camaraderie with the 3-2 guys as well, because we used to braai a lot on the barbecue. We talk about the braai, which is the barbecue, and we used to drink as well. But the thing is, what we did, we can drink, but tomorrow morning when we have to work, we work. So when we party, and when we work, we work. And we always had that respect for everybody. A couple of incidents that I can talk about in the time at 3-2 Battalion. There was a buffalo that I can't remember the river name, but we were on the east side, and this vehicle hit a landmine on the west side of the river, and they sent me down with a recovery to go and recover this buffalo. And I drove all the way down to the bottom of the bridge at Santa Clara, went around, went up the river again, and when it got dark, I was about 5 kilometers from the buffalo. So we stopped, made a temporary base, and as we were getting up in the morning to proceed to go and hook the buffalo up, there was another explosion at the buffalo, and 2 brothers got killed. There was an anti-tank mine that was with it was booby trap. They were fetching the water from the buffalo during the night and in the morning to make their coffee and stuff like that. And then they activated this booby trap, and the landmine went off, and both these brothers were killed. They were twins, they were killed. And after that, the military, then they were not a part of 3-2, they were another unit, South African unit, or the infantry unit, wearing in browns. And we never wore browns, we just wear all camouflage kit. We had nothing to do. All our kit, even our socks, was not from the South African Defence Force, but we were still part of the South African. But we had just different clothes. We had camos, and we had a green machila, not the normal pack that you have in the say 6 High Battalion, for instance. We never had that kit. But anyway, so we got there, and that's where the military then made a decision that twins that are doing national service, when they go to the border and there's twins or brothers, they will not be deployed in the same company, and they will not be deployed in the war or in Ramboland at the same time. One will be in a unit and the other one will be in the bush, so that they don't lose two people or two family members at once. So that was also a good thing that happened. And I picked up the vehicle and hooked it up and brought it back. And they just picked up the big pieces of with the body bag and put the bodies into the chopper, and they flew them out. And a lot of things. It feels as if I'm talking from A and then I'm going to D and then I'm back at B. So I apologize for that, but it's things in my mind, how it comes up and what happens. And the camaraderie that we had in 3-2 Battalion, and the respect that the troops had of us and we of them. So I always had a sjambak in my mochila in the top thing, and if the troops were naughty, they used to get sjambak. Now in 3-2 Battalion, with the troops, we still had corporal punishment, where we actually, if they did something wrong, there was a guy in the kitchen named Jumbo, and he was twice my size, and he was the one that always used to use the sjambak with people that they get on, say, office bearing, and he was naughty, and he gets sjambak. And the troops always had that respect. One operation that we did, my mag gunner, Ernesto, he was also a very, very big guy. And when we were picking up all the soldiers, he kept on running away from me. I couldn't catch him. I mean, he's too big anyway, so I'm not going to run after him. But I took all his kit, and we went from Buffalo Base, we went to 3-1 Battalion, where we always flew, and that's about 45 to 50 kilometers away. And 4 o'clock that next morning, I get woken up in my sleeping bag, and here's Batista asking me, can he make me some coffee, and will I please sjambak him now, before the troops wake up, because he knows he was naughty for running away from me yesterday. So I said, okay, so I got up, he leant over a branch, it was there, he leant over it, and I hit him 4 shots with my sjambak, and he got up and he said, obrigado, which thank you, and he made me a cup of coffee, and that was the end of that. Then he was back, and that is the things that you look up to 3-2 Battalion. Now, 3-2 Battalion, your beret and all your clothes and that, you earn it. It's not just given to you that you got it, you got to earn it. And once you've earned it, the people in the outside, they all know that 3-2 Battalion is the best fighting unit, not in Africa, in the world. And if I can say by myself, even Peter Williams, also things that he's been through, not once have I run away from a fight. Peter Williams, in their small groups with the recce people, if they're 4 or 5 people and there's 50 vehicles, you can't attack them, then they will recua, which is mean they will withdraw. But then they will get in a bigger fighting aircraft or anything to take out a convoy. But we never run away from any fight. The one contact that we went in near Kahama, I was with just 10 people, myself and 9 troops, and I walked into a detachment. The detachment is about between normally 72 enemy, and they were dug in, and we went. Now their trenches were quite far apart. It wasn't a long trench that you can actually see as a base. And when we walked into their base, and when I went around the tree, that's when I saw the BTR standing there. And then everything broke loose from there. And we started firing and shooting, got on the radio, I called the fire force in. There was always, if people were operating, the Hague is a base where all the troops were sitting and the generals and everybody's there. And it's far into the bush, so when we operate, we've got the Hague at the back, if we need assistance, they can fly troops in within 20 minutes. Because as soon as the flight engineer and the hag will always sit at the aircraft, and the troops are always ready. So if there comes a call that we need assistance, the flight engineer automatically starts the aircraft. The troops start getting in the aircraft, and the pilot gets his briefing to where to go to. So by the time he's got his briefing of where to go to, when he gets to the chopper, all the troops are in and the chopper's already ready to take off, and they fly up. And then they flew in Donnie Frey with his Delta 10. I think Delta 10, yeah, they flew in Donnie Frey with these people, and when they put them on the ground, I mean, the enemy was running all over the show, and then it was a firefight, and we won that. And then in the distance, Arthur Walker, he was a guy, probably the best Alouette pilot that I've known and heard of and seen in my entire life. He was flying around a big, it's called the Afrikaanse Krimmetakboom. It's one of those massive big trees. And Arthur Walker was flying around this tree with his chopper. And he called Donnie, because Donnie had the A-72. The A-72 we used to communicate with the helicopters, and the B-51 we communicate with ourselves. And he called Donnie and he said, I've got 3 gooks running around the tree, and I've got no more ammunition, I can't shoot them. So what was happening, he was flying around the tree, and the terrorists were running around the tree to stay in front of the helicopter. And then Donnie went there, and he just stood up, and as the first guy came around the tree, he shot him. Then the second guy stepped on this bloke, and then Donnie shot the second guy, and he fell. And then the third guy came around the tree and saw this and looked up, and then Donnie shot him too. And then all 3 of them were lying there, and then Arthur Walker said, thank you very much, now I can go and find some ammunition and come help you again. Now, with Arthur Walker, he's the only bloke that's got 2 honoris cruxes for bravery, what he's done in his life. And I take my hat off to him, even my hands are standing up about that. And he had in his window, he had a little target that his gunner would have on the enemy. So if Arthur is flying and he looks through the target on his window and he gets the target on his target, then the gunner just shoots straight. And after 4 rounds you got to stop, because the weapon will start pushing the arrow out of it will actually roll it. And now I was there in 3-2 when we still had the gunships. The gunships would come. If we were being trooped out, we would also have gunships with us, because when we get there, the Pumas will drop onto the ground, the gunship will stay on top and then protect. We get out and the Pumas take off and they will fly away, and then the gunships will come and land. Then the Pumas will go and pick up more people that got to come out to the bush, and as soon as they close by, then the Pumas, the gunships will take off again and give top cover, and then the Pumas will land, drop the troops, take off, go again, and then if it's all done, then the arrows go back onto the ground, and until everything's done, and then they all fly back, and then from there we start doing our patrols. Now, doing 6 weeks at a time, if there's no hag or we're just in the bush now for 6 weeks, you can't carry 6 weeks of ration packs with you. So we get re-dropped every 6 to 7 days. We have been given 9 days of food at the time, but then that mochila gets very heavy. My mochila with my water, my weapon, my ammunition, everything loaded 100 kilos. That's what I carry, and that's what I carry. And those days, I mean, I was young, I was fit, and it was always the will to proceed, that you don't get tired and you just keep on doing what you are doing. To come back to Buffalo Base, we had single quarters, or single where the troops were sleeping, and in the Kimbo, which was about 10 or 12 kilometers away from us, from Buffalo Base itself, that's where all the married couple and the children, and there was a Kimbo school, and there was a teachers and everybody there. So the married people stayed in the Kimbo, and the single guys stayed in the base, in old army tents, what the people know. And the troops were always there. So if we're doing kitchen fatigues, the sergeant, everybody will come in. They do their work, and they keep them busy, and we do just make sure that they're doing their work, and then we do nothing. We just, we rest. And after the other 2 weeks, they go back, then somebody else do it. That's actually now their leave time. And what happens after 2 operations, then you can, as the leader group, we go on leave. That's why it's either kitchen fatigues for 2 weeks and then 2 weeks leave. Now, what happens is, when it's at 4 weeks leave, we used to get nearly about 3 weeks leave, because you get your normal leave and then your bush leave. So if we're doing kitchen fatigues and that, then some of the leader group will go on leave. Not the platoon sergeant and the lieutenant. Either the lieutenant will go, and then I'll stay behind. Or the next time when we're doing kitchen fatigues, I go on leave and the lieutenant stays behind, and then he will do his work, what he does. After 3 rotations, we used to go back to the training area. The training area is about 20 kilometers from Buffalo itself. And with the 4 weeks that we're there, we do retraining of everything. We do ambushes, we do night patrols. We didn't actually do night patrols in the training area, because we do a lot of night patrols. If we do it in the bush, those guys, they know exactly where to go and what to do. So then it's 4 weeks of training in the training area. So we always keep the soldiers, make sure that they're always up to standard what they have to do. And with the shooting of the soldiers as well, I mean, they could all shoot, but you still have to make sure that they're shooting towards a target and not high up in the air. Now, a lot of contacts happen where, well, myself and Donnie Frey, I will call Donnie because we were always at 2 platoons and we were always operating together. We were standing, and there was an ambush, and we were shooting, and the next minute I looked up and I saw Donnie, and he looked at me, and we both stood up, and we standing and we shooting the people. And they said to us, the troops were saying, why are we standing? He said, well, look where all the bullets are going. They were shooting so high that they would never have actually hit us. So then you could see, and the traces and everything was flying high up in the trees. So the point is, you can actually see better if you stand, because now you've got a bit of height, and you can see the flashes where the bullets are coming from, and if it's traces, you can actually follow the traces, and you know exactly where the fire is coming from, and then you retaliate. And the thing is, with the doctrine that you will learn with the dash, down, crawl, observe, sights, fire, it was more with a physically attacking the people. I think the enemy was also scared, and probably it's normal that if you get a lot of fire on you, you want to keep your head down. So the more fire you can, more ammunition or bullet, or the more fire you can put onto the enemy, they are going to stop shooting and they're going to keep their heads down, and that gives you the advantage. And I think with Jan Breitenbach, we started first with Bravo Group and then 32 Battalion, and it was all the respect of him as well, what he did with the troops, and he brought them back from Angola. Okay, during the time I was speaking about a HAG is a forward operating base in the bush where they would have the fuel for the helicopters. There will be lots of rations, there will be water trucks, everything will be there. The generals can be sleeping there. Then that means that the helicopters and the food doesn't have to be flown from Dangwa, which is another 50 kilometers further. So the reacting time, if you need a Kazakh, the chopper can be on the ground within half an hour, And I was talking about the fire force as well. A fire force is a platoon that's on standby in the forward operating base. If you walk into enemy and you need a fire force there, that's a platoon that's on standby. They will put them in the helicopter and then they will fly them to you and they will assist you with the contact that you are doing. With the companies, I was in Delta Company, and Alpha and Bravo Company worked together. Charlie and Delta Company worked together. Echo and Foxtrot worked together, and there was a Golf Company as well. And they were also interacted with all the other companies. Now, when we go to the bush, or to the operational area, we will be taken to 3-1 Battalion where the aircraft is. The Flossie is there. What happens is the troops that are, we will be at, say, the west side of the runway, and the Flossie will come and land, go to the east side of the runway, and offload those troops that have come out of the bush. Then it will taxi all the way back to us. Then we will load, and we will take off and go back to the bush. Now, we never saw those people. They were interacting with those people, of the soldiers and the leader group. We never saw them because we were kept apart. And when we come back out of an operation, the same would happen. We would either take them to the east side, stop there, get off. The C-130 would taxi, turn around and taxi to the other side and pick up those soldiers and then fly to the bush. Now, the first time ever that the whole unit was together was after Operation Protea. Where all the units, all the companies were involved in Operation Protea. Lots of people know about Operation Protea. It was a big, massive operation. And when we came back, that was the first time ever that the whole unit was on the ground, in Buffalo Base itself. And I will talk now, just going to mention something that I remember now as well what happened. I was drilling my platoon onto the parade ground. And the one troop jumped out of the drilling. He jumped or moved out of the thing, and then he went and assaulted the guy in the Alpha Company on the parade ground. He assaulted him. So in Portuguese, I asked him, "What's your problem?" So he told me, "No, a year ago he slept with my wife, and this is the only time I saw him now. So you must sort this out." And yeah, but when we came back, now Noel Viljoen, he was in the base, and when we all came back, because we all came back with the vehicles from Ondangwa, drove all the way back there, and I'll tell now something of the operation, my motorbike, but anyway, I'll get there now. When we got back, there was no food for us in the base, and Noel Viljoen, he went to Papa Victor, Victor Papa, he was the major. He went to him and he said to him that the convoy has arrived, and he actually asked him, can't we make them a braai or something, in the bush, because we did 2 ops actually, because we did one before Protea and then we stayed another 6 weeks with Protea, so it was 12 weeks that we were actually in the bush. And then Victor Papa said to Noel Viljoen, "No, they've got ration packs, they can eat that." So when we got in, he was still standing talking, there was no food for us, so nothing was arranged, a welcoming back of the operation. And when we had at the gate, all hell broke loose. It was like the sky was just lit up. We shot more ammunition that from the gate to the parade ground where we got off. We shot more ammunition there that was shot on Ops Protea. We got rid of all our ammunition. We shot out everything. Lawrence van Niekerk, he was down in Charlie House or something, and he was shooting with a AK. So Victor Papa came to him and he said to him, "Why are you shooting the AK?" So he turns around while he's still shooting, he says, "Because the mag belts are finished." He's just shooting. I was lying on the bed. Now I had all my troops' weapons by me. And I took the weapon and was lying on my bed and the door's there, and I was just putting one magazine after the other and just shooting them out the door over the river. And but it was hectic. But in the house, I mean, it's even louder. So what I did is, then I just took the AK and I just threw it through the window. And the window was just a wooden thing that you open. So I threw that weapon out there. And as I threw it out the window, then I think Julius Kratz came in and he said to me, I'm shooting with the weapon out the room. Because he saw from where he was, you could see the traces going out the house. And I was the only one in the house. So I'm lying there on the bed. And he feels every weapon. But all those weapons are ice cold. The one here behind still doing tick, 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 as it's cooling off. So luckily there I wasn't caught on that one. And yeah, that was with the shooting, but it was a lot of shooting. Now we had a reconnaissance wing there as well. It was on the left side on a little kopje. And all the grass houses in the front, from Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, we used to bath in the river. And the guys in the recce house, they would start throwing us with 60 mil mortars because we're in the water. So the first thing you do if you see that water coming, all you do is you just get your things out the water. So when it goes off, it doesn't shock you. So if your things are under the water, I don't know if I can say that.
No, you can say that, no problem.
If your balls are under the water and that 60 mil Patmore goes off, they sit there under your cheek and then it's not fun. And there was nothing bad with the people doing that. I mean, that was part of 3-2 Battalion. We did that. Old Wally Haldane, he was living in the top house as well. And he woke up one night before he left that there was a hyena busy eating the wood to get to him. A hyena wanted to eat him. And there's some guys that you can't go into their house and try and wake them up because they will shoot you. There's some people that did get a bit bossy. Lots of people that talk to me when they know that I was in 3-2 Battalion, they said, but you're not mad. I said, no, I'm not mad at all. Lots of people want to, if they fall off the wagon, they will then say it was 3-2 that did that, but it's nothing that. And you get people nowadays that I've heard, this guy all of a sudden goes on a drinking spree, a guy there in Ibongo. And his wife said to me, now he's lost now all his photographs of the 3-2 Battalion. And I said, but he was never in the unit. No, but it's things that happened in the bush. I said, all of a sudden he goes on a drinking spree, then he uses that as an excuse. I said, your husband's problem is an alcoholic. It's got nothing, he's using that as an excuse. And that's what people do nowadays, is they will go back to things that happened in the bush and they will use that as an excuse. If that has happened, in Afrikaans they use the word bossies, going bushes or something. Now, when your head flips out and things like that. Now, when your head flips out, it flips out either because you're drunk or you're stupid or something, you're doing that. It's got nothing to do with the bush. Nothing has changed my life of 3-2 Battalion. 3-2 Battalion stuff is close to my heart and it will always be there. Now with Ops Protea at Zangongo, we walked in there and there was a shed full of motorbikes. So I took one. Everybody was taking motorbikes and loading them in vehicles, and we didn't have vehicles, we were walking. So I took a motorbike. I pushed that motorbike for 25 kilometers in Ops Protea with me. Where that motorbike came with me. When they flew us out, we did the sticks which we can load. There's 28 people in the platoon, so that's 7 people in a Puma with kit. So we started loading 7 people and some guys 8 people just to push them into the Puma. And I arranged the last stick was myself and 4 troops and my motorbike. So the chopper, the Puma landed and we were going on to the, and I was pushing the motorbike and the flight engineer pointed and said, not that, no. The next one troop was in and I just picked up the front wheel and he picked up the motorbike, put it in the helicopter and that came to Buffalo. Now, the thing that happened in Buffalo, I don't know, it was something to do with Evil Knievel these days, and I also wanted to be Evil Knievel. So I took the motorbike, I took a 6-foot folding chair, a 6-foot folding table, and I put it on top of another table, and I opened the kitchen, the mess doors, and the back door, opened that, and we moved everything out. And I took the bike from quite a way back. I came down that motorbike through the kitchen, and I wanted to ramp. We had a grass thing in the bar. I wanted to try and ramp the motorbike onto the grass roof. But a 6-foot folding table is aluminium. When I hit that table, it just bent. And I went with the motorbike and everything. I just went smack into the bar wall. Well, that was the end of Evil Knievel's stuff there. Then I got banned from going into the kitchen. I'm not allowed even to go and get my post. If there's any post for me, they had to bring it out to me. If they go and want to drink something, they must buy the drink inside, and I must sit outside and drink. I'm not allowed to, can't even sit in the bar and drink. And the same with the food. We had a place outside where you could sit and eat. My mate Daniel would always used to go and dish up my food, and bring my food in a knife and fork outside. I would sit outside because I was banned from going into the mess. I wasn't allowed in the bar, I wasn't allowed in the kitchen. But about 2 weeks later they said, okay, we'll lift your ban now, you can go back into the bar and into the kitchen. Those are things that happened in 3-2, you know. You always think stuff that happens in 3-2 stays in 3-2. But with this legacy conversation, I think it's actually a good thing that it comes out. And as Koos has also said, that people are too lazy to write, but it's easier to talk. If I had to write all this, it would probably take me 6 months, and then I would get bored after that as well. And the thing is with this legacy, as you are talking and carrying on with the conversation, things come up in your mind. I mean, also the one operation we did, I had a Kwe, which is a Samo 120, but it's a Kwe, so it's an armored vehicle. Just the cab's armored. And this was full of ammunition. And I had to bring this vehicle back. And the back axle had broken. So what I did is I just picked up the back axle with chains. So only the Kwes is 6 by 6. But now with the back wheels off the ground, and there's no wheels on them, it's just 4 wheels that I can use. You can't go 6 by 6. So now I've only got, say, normal 2-wheel drive. And doing window bashing with all that ammunition on the back, in the soft sand, you get stuck and now you get pulled out. And right from just below Zangongu, I said, no. Now it's either me, you guys don't have to, you can come behind me, but I'm not getting on the road. The road was not swept, so I don't know if there were landmines or anything there. I'm the only one in that vehicle, and I drove that vehicle at about 100 k's an hour on that road. And I just said, if this thing explodes, I want to go, I've got to go with it. Because then there's nothing to explain. I wasn't supposed to be on the road. And they only expected me back about 3 days later. And that next morning I stopped there with this vehicle. They said, how did you get here so quickly? I said, I drove on the white road. They said, yeah, but you couldn't. I said, well, I didn't. I brought the vehicle back with all the ammunition. Those are things that you do at the given moment that you think it's the best thing to do. So you do it. And I'm just trying to now think of something that comes around. It's die omgewing van die oomblik. If you feel you've got to do it, it's the right thing to do. Your mind says to you it's right, you do it. And then you do it. And to me, that was most probably the wrong thing to do, but in my mind it was the right thing to do, and I brought the vehicle back without any incidents. And your troops will also get the respect how you treat them. Now, the troops knew if they were naughty, they got shambak. I mean, that is that. One thing that I can also mention what happened is Dani Frey went to go and get one of his troops when we were going to the bush, because we go to the Kimber because this is now their last day or last night or whatever. Now you get them to get them on and this guy was very drunk. So Donnie took him and he whacked him with a fist. And the troop said to Donnie, I'm going to go to the lieutenant because you assaulted me. But all in Portuguese. So this troop goes to the lieutenant and he says to the lieutenant, the sergeant hit me, he assaulted me because I'm drunk. So Ben said to him, but you are drunk, and then Ben whacked him also. So then he decided, well, then he's going to go to the captain because this, the sergeant hit him, then the lieutenant hit him, so he's going to go to the captain. Then he's going to get, so what did the captain do? Hit him too. So then the captain said to him, you want to go to the major? He says, no, because then it's going to be Jumbo. Well, that's Jumbo is the guy who gives the shambucks, so that was done and dusted. And then we played a rugby match. The people that I very much look up to, 32 Battalion, is everybody that I worked with. Everybody. Colonel Dion Ferreira, Falcon, him as well, I've got a lot of respect for him. I've got a lot of respect for Colonel Jan Breitenbach. I've got a lot of respect for Echo Victor, Eddie Viljoen. He's Colonel Dion Ferreira, who was the commanding officer of 32 Battalion. His nickname was Falcon. Julius Kratz was Delta Company commander. Sam Heap was Echo Company commander. Ben Roos, Tony Frey, Peter Williams, Titi Abreu. Those people, you work together with them a lot of times, of all the times, and that is where it actually becomes, where you get the respect for one another. In the forward operating base, that's where the generals will be sitting, and then the troops will be on patrol. And this is where I also got a lot of respect for Falcon. There was a contact, and the next minute they wanted an extra platoon to come and help. And when they dropped the people off the ground, out the chopper climbs Falcon, Colonel Dion Ferreira, with his camos, with his rank on, and his weapon and everything, and he participated in the firefight. And when a commanding officer does that, the troops are out of that world because they've got so much respect for that guy. He's doing exactly what we are doing. One operation that we were in was next to Onjiva, and we were about 2 or 3 kilometers from Onjiva, and there was a Shona in front of us, and we had an enemy on the other side of the Shona. We had Onjiva this side, and we couldn't get out because we couldn't go across the Shona. So we called in the Impalas to come in and do a bit of airstrikes here just to get us out. Now with the soldiers, they will always, if they go through a kraal, they will pick up a chicken and just take it with them. Eventually, tonight I'm going to eat a chicken. And these guys, they were all lying down. And at the one stage, we could see the enemy that side, and they could see us. But it was too far for us to shoot, so there was no firefight between us, but we could see one another. At one stage by the tree, I was looking around this side, and then I could see the guy, then he couldn't see me again, then he would go to the other side of his tree, and I would go this side, and we were sort of looking at one another, but it was too far to shoot. And we called in the Impalas. They came in and they did an airstrike. As soon as the Impalas were in the air above us, the other troops picks up and he starts plucking his chicken. He's now very happy now because there's more fire or more fight in the air that are helping us out of this situation. So now they get even more braver, and then someone starts cleaning his chicken. On one instance, we were playing rugby, and I wear a size 12 boot, or a size 12 boot, and we were playing a rugby match in Rundu against Wits Command, and those guys were doing a tour. So Colonel Dion Ferreira came to us in the change rooms, and he said to us, please guys, enjoy the game, but please, I'm not begging you, I'm telling you, do not fight. Don't get involved with a fist fight. This is a rugby match. This is in Rundu town, and it's 32 Battalion's name that's on this. And Sam Heap was about 6 inches taller than me. I'm 6'3", so he's about 6'6", but he's a unit. We were both the locks in this. And the only tog I could get to play the rugby game in was a size 11 rugby tog, but I wear a size 12. I put this thing on. It must have been 10 minutes into the game. I said to Sam Heap, listen, these togs I can't feel my toes anymore, they're so painful. I can't run, I can't do anything, it's too sore. So he said to me, okay, in the next scrum we have, I'm going to fake an injury. And then you go off the field and you're going to put on your togs. And on the scrum, there's Sam Heap lying he's got back pain and he's in terrible pain. He just looked at me in Afrikaans, he said to me, go put on your tackies and come back, I'll be ready when you come back. So I ran off the field, I put my tackies on, went back onto the field, and as I came back up, Sam Heap got up and he said, I feel much better now, we can carry on. And so we didn't lose a guy going off the field to go put on his tackies. And even those days, in that game, I can't even remember if we had even reserves to come onto the field, so nobody could actually get hurt, because there was nobody else to come on the field. If a guy goes off for an injury, he's off. And old Jim Ross, this middle finger of his was gone. He lost it. He shot off or something. And he was the inside center. And I passed him the ball, and he put the ball behind his back, and that was the scissors movement that we practiced. And he stuck up his hand and he said, my finger is gone. And this guy that was going to try and attack him, or tackle him, didn't know, I mean, that's something that doesn't happen, and that he just stopped dead in his tracks and thought, now what the hell is it? And then we did the scissor movement, and then we went and scored a try. So that worked once, but it worked. We did lose the game, but and we did not fight. So the colonel was very impressive that we didn't fight, but we lost the game. I mean, those guys were playing rugby for, I mean, as a team, they were the Wits command champions. To get back to 32 Battalion, on the river there was a boat, Charlie's Pillar. We used to take that and we used to go on booze cruises on a Sunday. And the amount of booze on Charlie's Pillar, you wouldn't think that everybody could get so much booze. We were paying, those days, it was cheaper to buy a beer than to buy a Coke. Coke was more expensive than beer. I think you go to the bar with 5 rand, you come back, you stone drunk, you were paying 5 cents a tot of whiskey, and 5 cents a tot of brandy, or 5 cents for a rum. And I think for a rum, and a double rum and Coke is 15 cents. So with 5 rand you could get very drunk. And because we had an NCO's bar, an officer's bar, and then the troop canteen, the NCO for the troops only corporals and that. And what they used to like to drink was Cocorico and Coke. You'll buy a full glass, like a beer glass, full of neat Cocorico and 1 can of Coke. And he will sit and he will take a sip of Cocorico and then he will take a sip of Coke. And that's how they drank their Cocorico and Coke. That's how they drank, they didn't mix it. And the thing is, with the one operation, we came back and we were not allowed into the base because we are 32 Battalion, and they just said, well, you guys are too naughty. You've got to stay outside the base. And but us as staff members, we allowed into the bar and go and drink there, but the troops were not allowed in. And what we do is, if a troop wants a case of beer, we'll buy him a case of beer. If he wants 6 beers, we'll give him 6 beers. What happens is, why we did that is, and this is why Julius, the company commander, Julius Kratz, he said, give the guys their beer so he can get drunk and he's going to pass out. If he wants more, he's going to make trouble, and then it's going to be a bad thing. And that's why we used to give the troops, when we come back from the bush and they've got money and they want to buy a case of beer, give him a case of beer. He's going to drink 6 of them, he's going to pass out, then his mates are going to drink the others. And there was never any trouble with them like that. But as I say again, in this whole thing with the bush, the people have always got respect. If we party big. If we in the bush, then it's war, and everybody knows exactly what to do. There's one thing that I was always in trouble with, I'm going to say this in Afrikaans. I used to say a prayer before we used to eat, and it's in Afrikaans. I used to say, "Dank Vader, dank, slaan die duivel met 'n plank, amen." And that's what we did. I can't translate it into English. I don't know. Thank you, Father, devil. Thank you, Father. Hit him with a stick, and then you hit the devil with a stick as well, and then amen. And we used to eat. So, and it was all with me and Danny Frey that always had these things. And the thing is, the camaraderie in the unit. I cannot explain. If I have to take 3-2's camaraderie towards a normal unit, for example, 6 South African Infantry Battalion, which is an infantry battalion. If you take those people, a corporal is a corporal, a sergeant is a sergeant, a staff sergeant. Everybody was scared of everybody as the ranks go up. And but there, even the captain, nobody was afraid of, because he was the captain. Because it was that we were in the bush together, we worked together. In the bush you sleep together for 6 weeks with one another. So there was never the animosity that you must be afraid of that guy. I heard now last night that the legacy of the 3-2 reunion, that they were talking there, Frans van Staden, he came as a lieutenant. And I was a sergeant, and he said to me last night, he said he was actually, when he saw me, they were actually afraid of me because I was so big and I looked so mean, and you're the old hand in the unit, and they knew, they don't know what to do. And he even said that he was a captain, and Sergeant Major Dan Foster was the RSM at the infantry school in 1978. And he said he was actually nervous, that he wanted to stand to attention towards the Sergeant Major because he had so much respect for him. And eventually then the Sergeant Major Foster saluted the captain and said, "No, I understand that, all that." And these are things that happen in a close combat with people. If you live together, you sleep together in the same house, you're in the bush, the guy next to you is the soldier. We all look after one another. I always used to say to them, and everybody would always think racist. There's no such thing as a racist in 3-2 Battalion. His blood is red, my blood is red. If he gets shot, I'm going to look after him. If I'm going to get shot, they're going to look after me. And with the respect that they get for you, as I said in the beginning, that I was tested of how I'm going to use my first contact. And after they accepted me when I did the right thing to do, after that, they will go out of their way to protect you. Sergeant Titi Abreu was married, he had his children, and he was living in the Kimbo. It was myself, Peter Williams, and Danny Frey, and there was another guy, I can't remember who was with us. He invited us for supper at his house. And Titi was sitting there, and all of us were sitting there, and the women were in the kitchen. They were not even sitting at us with the table. If your beer's got so much beer left in the glass, they would come out the kitchen and fill up your glass again. Your glass was not allowed to be empty. That's the respect that they had for us. And the food as well that was given to us, they give a plate of food that you actually battled to finish it. And but you have to finish the food, and they will just keep on bringing and bringing. And that is the respect of the 3-2 soldiers. And then that's just Titi Abreu. They are all the same. They've all got, you got your naughty guys there as well, and they get punished, and it's forgotten. You don't hold it against them. And the time that I left 3-2 Battalion, I got to another unit, and the one guy, I'm not going to mention his name, he was a sergeant major, and he said to me, I must remove the beret of my head and get a green beret. So I said to him, Sergeant Major, I think you would give your left testicle to wear this beret on your head, because it's not given to you, it's earned. And then we had to change everything, and then we you affiliate to a unit where you want to, and I affiliated with 32 Battalion, so I could still wear my green beret and my buffalo top because I was affiliated to that unit, and I could wear the stable belt. And that is something that's near to a person. I mean, it's 40 years ago, and I can still remember as if it happened yesterday. Furthermore, in operations, there's so many operations that you can talk about. Now, the same thing with the doctrine that I was taught at in infantry school, which is the school where you go to where you actually become an instructor, an infantry person, and everything that was taught there, and we go to 32 Battalion, everything works differently. And I can still remember everything from 32 Battalion, but things I've forgotten that I was taught in infantry school, because for me it was more important to do it the right way, was 3-2 way. Now, if they had written a doctrine about 3-2 operations, I think the war would have probably been totally different. But I thank Colonel Jan Breitenbach for what he has done. And the bush warfare of those soldiers, you didn't have to teach them anything about bush warfare and camouflage. They had it already done and dusted, and it was just to perfection.
Yeah. Thank you, André. We really appreciate it. But can I ask you, if you can just briefly tell us about the role of your sergeant, of your black sergeant, your Portuguese sergeant in the platoon? Because he was controlling your soldiers actually, and he would have been a man of great experience.
I can answer that, yes. Sergeant Tite Abreu, he was in charge of all the people on the ground, on the troops. I, as the leader group, the leader group sergeant, I just could tell him what to do, but I never told him what to do because he already did everything. He would speak to the section leaders. You got the section, there were 3 sections, so he would put them already, the sections were already there. He would come, and everything was so coordinated, even with the guards. He would just say that the guards are done, everything is done. He would go and do the guard or the guard list. He would make that up. He would just come and report and say the guards list is done, all is sorted. He would get food, and he would go take if there's in the forward operating base, if we're there, they're going to need to get water, then he will take the section leaders and the troops. They will go to the water place or the food place. They will get their food. It's not that I have to do it. In a different military, I would have had to do that, what he was doing. So he's doing all that work. I mean, it's he's the same. He's also Portuguese. They've also got, the troops also have to look up to him. And with the experience that he had and done, I mean, the people, everybody, even up until now, can just talk about Tite Abreu. He's a brilliant guy, and if anything there's a problem, he will also come and he will explain to the problem. He will sort it out before it even escalates. So he can understand more things what we can understand. He understands the entire language of Portuguese, the little lingua and the little things. If they talk softly to one another, or like whispering, and they're talking about us, we wouldn't know what they were saying because and he would pick it up and he would then kill that fire. So, but there was so much respect to one another. We never ever, any leader group, not a corporal, not the sergeant, nothing. Nobody ever had to mention anything that he did something wrong. It was the troops that were doing things wrong. So that's how good it was.
I often wonder what would have happened to these men who became known as the best fighting unit in the South African Defence Force. So much so that they had to be disbanded on political grounds later. What would have happened to those men if Colonel Jan Breitenbach did not bring himself to create 32 Battalion from Bravo Group? Would they have been wiped out? Would they have become terrorists? What would have happened? I know it's speculation, but what's your opinion?
My opinion on that is because you've got the MPLA and FNLA, they were fighting against one another. And if Jan Breitenbach never was on the picture, I think eventually even the MPLA or the FNLA, one would have wiped the other one out. And I cannot say who's the better part. But I understand, I think MPLA was a bigger group than FNLA. And that is why he took the FNLA people and started our group. So my opinion is I think they would have been wiped out. The last thing that comes to mind now was the disbanding of 32 Battalion at Pomfret. He's actually standing up there. And I was still serving in the military, but because 32 Battalion was my mother unit, where I was affiliated to the unit, we were all instructed by the chief of the minister or whatever that all the people that are affiliated to 32 Battalion will be at the disbanding parade in Pomfret. And there were buses and vehicles and everything from the military that sent us there. It was a very sad day that day. And I think I'm going to mention something about Willem Rutter too after this. We got there, and then one bloke walked onto the parade ground, and he said that this general standing up here, he promised you guys at Buffalo that this unit will never disband, and now he's standing here telling this unit, and he's walking there with his fellies, but yeah. And then there was an altercation between the 32 members, all 32 members, and they wanted to arrest us all, even me included, because I was part of the 32 group. Now there were guys that were civilians, that weren't 32, they were then civilians, and we said, no, if you arrest them, you arrest all of us. Then Colonel Jan Breitenbach took us onto the tennis court, and he was standing on a chair, and he was speaking to us, and he explained everything, what the ministers and all these people, because of the disbanding, and the reason, I believe today, the reason why the unit was disbanded is because they are too good, and they were a threat to the other people in South Africa, and that is why they were disbanded. And then we handed in, me personally handed R1 coin with P.W. Botha's head on it, because they wanted 32 coins that Willem Rutter put in a black bag, and he took it himself personally to Cape Town, and he handed it to P.W. Botha, and he said, you sold the unit for 32 Rand. Yes, 32 coins with your head on it, take it. And he handed that in. So one of my coins, that 32 was sold out, is in that little bag somewhere. My personal, one of my coins. Now to come back to Willem Rutter. Willem Rutter, as I said last night, he looks like a professor or a lecturer or something. But I tell you, this bloke is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant soldier. He went in to do the reconnaissance of a base. He came back and he said to the people, listen, the base is there. There are so many people in, they've got so many weapons there. So they asked him, well, how did you do it? He said, well, I sat and ate food with them. That's how he infiltrates. He infiltrated that he was sitting with them, eating food with them, and he just observed everything. He took us into gave us the warning orders of an ambush that we were supposed to go and have, and we were going to split at a water well at night, and we walked for about 8 kilometers. And then he said, right, here's the water well, from here, now you go that way. Now 8 kilometers at night walking, and that's how he does his reconnaissance. There was one operation that we did, and he went back to the generals and he said to them, because they had air photographs of the base we were going to attack, and he said to them, please do not attack this base. That's not a base, that's a dummy base. The trenches are only dug a few inches deep, because an air photograph cannot determine the depth of a trench, but it can see a trench. He said the base is on this side. Here's the base. You can't see it, but it's there. I'm telling you, you must attack vice versa this way. And they eventually, he convinced them that they're going to attack nothing, but they're going to miss the base. But he convinced them, and they did attack the base. When they got there on the ground, those trenches were dug this deep. And he said to them, the reason why I know is because I was there. I saw it with my own eyes while they were doing it. I saw it. And with the enemy, if they've got their bases, what they do is, with the footpath is, they will take out a grass thingy and put it down here on the footpath. They'll have, so if you take an aerial photo, you won't see a footpath. And they will walk across, over that, they won't stand on that grass. They will walk there, but then tomorrow, they will throw that one away and they will go pick up another one and close it up again. They had trenches where we dig our normal trench in a V or a long V. They dug deep holes so he could stand in his trench. That's a trench was this round, something like about that round, the trench. And you make a little roof with reeds and grass. You climb in there and you just put that thing over his head. You stand by a tree and he can have 360 vision where he is. You can see that way, you can see this way. So what he's doing is he's shooting. The only thing that's going to be out of the trench is his weapon. His head, only that part of his head is out is above ground. So the camouflaging from them, their perspective, was brilliant. And Willem Ratte, he was at Mahoney. He was the reconnaissance guy there. He at one stage he got shot in the arm. It was before my time. He got shot in the arm. He was flown to one military hospital. They operated on him. And the next morning they went to his bed. Willem Ratte was gone. He wasn't there. He booked himself out of the hospital. And then 2 days later he was back at back into the bush with his troops, with the bandages on and the stitches still in. Now that's Willem Ratte. So everybody there has got his thing that happened about 3-2 Battalion. But I cannot put percentage-wise how good 3-2 Battalion is, but 3-2 Battalion, what I experienced, is the best in the world. I just want to mention one contact of Johnny Frey when he got shot. It was near Pew Pew on the 1st of January 1981 at 1:30 in the morning. There was a vehicle ambush and we heard the vehicles coming down and we laid it ambush formation. And when the vehicles came down, the section on the other side of the road, they triggered the ambush with a Claymore and a RPG-7. They shot the first vehicle out. And the second vehicle turned around and we started firing at that. And then we got up and it was a full moon. And Donnie and myself walked on the road towards where this vehicle had turned around to see if there were any people there that we could go and whatever. Anyway, so as we walked along, on the left-hand side of me, there was just a flash that came out of the bush. That's where the vehicle turned around. And I just took my weapon and I just emptied my whole magazine into the area where that flash came from. And Donnie just said to me, "Rapes, I'm shot." And I took him off, took him to the side of the road, and I injected him Solicortev, about 20 mils. We radioed for the helicopter to come and collect him. And there was another troop that was shot under the eye as well. And then, since we put the radio call in for the helicopter to come pick up Downey and the other Cassavac, it was an hour's flight time from Ndangwa to where we were for the chopper, an hour. And that chopper landed within an hour and 10 minutes after we made the radio call. And I injected Downey with another 20 mils of Sausigon because he was in terrible pain. And I just put a plaster on his forehead and I wrote there 40 mils of Sausigon. And when we loaded him in the helicopter, they even injected him more. So he's probably overdosed. And I went on leave on the 14th or 15th of February. And I went to, this is now from the 1st of January to the 14th, it's about 6 weeks. after the incident, and I went to one military hospital and I asked Rita, where's Donnie? I want to see Donnie. And she said to me, he's in the last bed, right? I got there and I looked at Donnie and I said to him, it's not Donnie. So I went back to her, I said, it's not Donnie. He said, that's Donnie. I went back and I took the clipboard and I looked at this and it said, Sergeant G. Frank. And I woke him up and his intestines were still in a packet outside of his stomach. His eyes were fallen back into his head. He weighed, I mean in those days I'm talking probably, we were weighing 85, 90 kilos. He was that stage, he was 45 kilos. That's what he was weighing. He already had 8 operations and he had a thingy on his stomach. He was shot 8 times or 9 holes in his small intestine. Or he lost 8 feet or something of his small intestine. And he shot through his hip and he was badly hurt. When he came out of hospital, I think it was a month later, when he actually, the lowest he got with the weight-wise, he was 39 kilos. That's what Donnie weighed. And then he came out. And then we came back to 3 Battalion. And when he got there, that's when it ended for myself and Donnie and Ben Lewis. We all just left. So that was something that's also close. Poor Donnie now, he's not with us anymore. He had a heart attack. And that was a great friend of mine.
André, you explained to us just now that the commanding officer would have arrived at the scene where a contact is taking place. And sometimes also a fire force platoon will arrive to assist you guys. Now for me, I'm thinking in terms of command lines. Having a senior officer there with you is not always wanted, I suppose, while the fight is still going on. Because I'm fearing here that there might be confusion on who's giving the orders. So can you tell me please, with the guys who's doing the fighting already, who made the call for the fire force to come and assist, would they automatically have command until that firefight is over?
Okay, how that works is the initial platoon, the initial persons on the ground doing the contact, they will radio in, we need assistance, because the enemy is bigger or more than we are. They will fly in the assistance. The persons on the ground who initiated, who started the contact in the beginning, they will finish it to the end. Nobody else is allowed to overrun or overrule that guy on the ground. Even if it's a sergeant or a corporal that's doing the fight, he will still be in control because he knows of everything. He knows where the enemy has run to. He can direct people what he wants to do. Then one that happened in a forward operating base, Falcon said to, we call him Fed Dupi, was a lieutenant. We're sitting in the operating base and he said to Fed Dupi, you must take a helicopter, go to the waterholes and go catch me a terrorist, please. So the helicopter got up and they left and they're flying around and the helicopter will then drop him at the waterhole. He'll walk around the waterhole, look for tracks, go to the next waterhole. So it carries on and we're sitting in the neck when we hear a couple of gunshots going off. So we're sitting all there by the fire and Falcon says, yeah, I wonder what's that all about. But he said, I will see when he comes back. So when Fed Dupi came back, he brought him a terrorist with him, but he shot him, he wounded him. So Falcon slapped him and he said, I told you to catch me one, not shoot one.
Is there anything you want to say to your old comrades? Perhaps somebody was listening here, haven't seen you in a few years, or perhaps the future generations. Do you have any word of advice?
And what I want to say to all the people, there's some guys that probably that I can't remember, but they will see my face and they will remember the stories. I will say to you guys as well, thank you very much for everything. What you've done, everything, every little thing means something to me. If I haven't mentioned anything, I apologize. But look after yourself and keep the good work up. Thank you very much.
Well, Internet, we've come to the end of this one. You know what I want to say to you? Come and talk to us. You know, just last night we were listening to Peter Williams. We're not allowed to call him Major Williams. And he said something that there's a due date or something at the back of everybody's shirt. And what he was trying to say is there's a start date and there's an end date, and we don't know when the end date is coming for us, but we are getting older. And if we want to create our own legacy, and if we want to tell the people about our brave deeds, and I say this without any irony because there were a lot of brave deeds, then man, come and talk to us, come and tell us your story, get hold of me, it's not difficult. We will accommodate you. I don't care if you were in 3-2 Battalion or as a cook or anything. You were all part of the same uniform, and you all played a role, and you all have a story to tell. So please come and speak to us. You're welcome here. André, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, and God bless you all.